As many as of you have read, Andrew is no longer with us, so I will be the acting chair, and I guess here at 6:05, I will call the meeting to order. We have quorum just barely at the moment. We'll start with introductions. My name is Matt Caldy. I'm formerly vice chair, I guess acting chair at this time. Next, how about Sam?
Hi, I'm Sam. I'm a junior going on a senior at IU studying environmental and sustainability studies and with a focus in environmental justice. And I'm tagging on a certificate to GIS and remote sensing to that. And I also hold a permaculture design certificate. And I have some experience in environmental restoration.
Thank you. And Matthias?
Hi, everyone. I'm Matthias Benko. I am a current junior at IU studying environmental studies and geography.
Thank you. And Dave?
Member of this commission, and I retired from SPIA in 2006. So now when I fill out a form saying, who's your employer, I say my garden. And so that keeps me busy. I have 2 hives of bees.
Excellent. Didemia?
Hi, I'm Didemia. Let's see, I'm retired as a professor of English from Franklin College. And I think that's hilarious, Dave, that you said your employer is your garden. I should say my employer is my cats. Yeah, so here I am.
Excellent. Linda?
I'm Linda Thompson, the Senior Environmental Planner and the liaison to the Environmental Commission.
Finally, Ben?
I'm the SPIA Fellow for the Planning and Transportation Department, and I'm getting my master's degree in environmental science and public administration.
Awesome. And that wraps up introductions. I guess I should be more prepared, but I can't remember off the top of my head if I've seen minutes from, I guess that would have been 2 months ago now. Do we have minutes to approve, or do we move on?
Matt, I'm sorry to interrupt, but since we have 10 members right now, and we have 5 people, that's not really a majority, that's half. I'm not sure we actually meet quorum for taking a vote.
Okay.
That's my impression too.
I just reached out to Corey. He said he's joining. He just needs the host to let him in.
I'm not seeing him come up.
Okay.
Can you let him know maybe he has the wrong link? Oh, here he is. I got him.
Cool.
Sorry, that's my bad. I didn't see it. It didn't pop up on my screen.
That might be it.
It's good.
Now we have a quorum.
Yep, it's good to know we'll have enough to vote. Welcome, Corey.
I was in that waiting room for a while. But yeah, sorry for being late. I had a work meeting go over by like 2 or 3 minutes.
We were discussing approval of minutes, but I can't recall, since it's been 2 months now, if we have minutes to approve or not.
There were 2 minutes that should be approved. We're a little bit behind because I think the August minutes I was behind on because of Eco Heroes, and then I finished those and sent those out. And then also, I think September's minutes, and if not October's minutes too. Are we 3 behind?
Well, we didn't have an October meeting, so we just.
Okay, so that's why. Yeah, so we have August and September that need to be approved. Mike sent me comments to those, and they've been made.
I don't know that I've read either one, but I move we accept them.
Yeah, I believe that I probably did read them, but since it's been over a month, I don't.
I second that.
Yeah, I don't remember having any issues with that, but all right, we have a motion and we have a second. So I guess I'll just kind of go across here and ask people Do a voice vote. I'm going to vote yes for approval. So next, Sam,
I vote yes.
Matthias,
Yes.
David,
Yes,
Dania,
Yes,
we got Corey
Yes.
and Don now.
Don, you're muted.
Um, I had problems getting on into the meeting. What are we voting on? Sorry.
Okay, sorry about that. We're voting on approving the minutes for both August and September.
That's fine with me.
No.
Yes, yay.
I believe that is all the commissioners, so it passes unanimously. Brings us to public comment. I don't know if we have any members of the public with us tonight. So we'll give just a moment in case anyone is to throw something up in the chat or raise their hand or get Ben's attention in some way. But seeing no one, I suppose we might as well move on to reports, starting with Tree Commission.
okay, I'll take that on. Both the Damia and Linda were there at the meeting too, so they can correct me if I get it wrong. But the urban forester reported at the start that they've planted 20 trees at Matlock Heights and 67 trees total in the last month around the city. There was no report from IU because Mia wasn't there at the meeting. Then they asked me about the Environmental Commission, so I told them what was on the agenda. The main part of the meeting was a response to a request from Ellen Jackhart from MC Iris saying that the main criminal plant next year would be calorie pears. And what can the tree commission do to help get rid of all the calorie pears in town? One thing is whether people can be, well, first let me define a tree lawn. That's the section between the sidewalk and the street that belongs to the city, and the city has control over it. One question that Ellen asked was, can people be approved to remove trees from, particularly calorie pears from the tree lawns? And there was a lot of discussion about that. There are now apparently 1,274 calorie pears in the tree lawns in the city. And it takes about $1,000 to remove and replace trees. There was consideration of the loss of canopy cover, and there are reasons why Aaron, who's the city forester, doesn't think the city should remove trees at the moment unless they have problems. And the city is currently removing about 30 of these things a year due to their bad condition. I sent you Ellen's request to the tree commission by email yesterday, and I sent you also a note from our arborist who wasn't present at the meeting, but he sent a couple of interesting pictures of a place over near Smith Road, I think, where there's a what did he say, about 10 acres of solid calorie pears that are just so thick that it's hard for a person to move through them. So that was the tree commission.
Thank you, Dave. The next would be Monroe County Environmental Commission, but that was probably Andrew. We might run into that on a number of these. Let's see, next would be Bloomington Commission on Sustainability. Don, do you have a report?
Yes, they met and they're very seemingly they operate pretty much like us. The first part of the meeting was the I forgot what the first name of Mr. Zodi is, but he did a review of hand, and among things he mentioned was the hand support of invasive plant removal, which gets into the fact we got so many thousand plus the little critters in town. But he went over basically what hand is about. I was impressed. One of the things he did bring up that I thought was relevant to us in the Environmental Commission, he made a comment about the fact that globally and locally, about 30 to 40% of a community's total carbon emissions are related to buildings. Gee, what a surprise that is. And it talked a little bit about the upcoming plans for improving efficiency of homes. So he took up quite a bit of the meeting. Flaherty spoke about the budget process, and they did spend a lot of time discussing their upcoming consultants presentation that they've been working with on housing first and addressing homelessness issues, which I guess they're still trying to figure out the date, but it they'll probably be in early 2022 because they were originally thinking of December, and then I guess second thoughts, they start thinking that would not be a good time of the year to try to have a presentation to the public because of people being out of town, etc. They are trying to get funding for work out a funding mechanism for the consultants to come to Bloomington or to meet with them, and as far as their proposed meeting. Their working groups, the Just Transition had no report. The Waste Reduction Group has yet to meet. But basically they're seem to be very focused on the housing first concept. So that's what I have for them.
Thank you for that report, Don. Next, we have the Environmental Resource Advisory Council, or ERAC.
Well, they last met on October 13th, which would have been before our October meeting that didn't happen, so I'll report on that. It started by talking about, they read a complaint they had received in the Parks Department about the use of IPE wood in Switchyard Park. I don't know what that stands for, but the complaint was that that's not a native plant and it shouldn't have been used. Next, we talked about Latimer Woods Management Plan, where lesser celandine is an invasive that's not well controlled. They mentioned briefly the Brown Woods Management Plan. Brown Woods is up north and west a little bit from Twin Lakes, and it's a place I'd like to go walking in pretty soon. There were various comments about Switchyard Park around town. They mentioned that there are about 5,000 trees a year planted around town. Ecologic Company is working on various city parks, removing woody non-natives. There's a piece of a new trail a bit north of Tap Road that's going to connect later to Clear Creek Trail. And there's some beavers there. Then there were discussions of other trails. They talked about education. At Leonard Springs each year, the sixth graders come out to Leonard Springs for looking at ecologic and geologic and such things. And they're now doing Griffey Lake with fourth graders as well. The Griffey Loop Trail that'll go all the way around Griffey is moving forward. Only one bid came through. There was $1 million higher than the money that's available. So they're getting started, but there's a long way to go. It's really, they have some pretty neat plans for the Griffey Loop Trail. They've gotten permission now from the utilities department to run that trail across the dam, which was an issue at first, apparently. And they're going to build a kind of dock out into the lake there with 3 piers for fishermen to use. And at that point, the connection, my connection anyway, cut out. On the agenda was to talk about the Chap Hunt, which was, you may have read about it in the newspaper or whatever. This is a hunt at Griffey that they hire, or they don't hire people, they just allow, they test people for their shooting ability and then allow them to hunt deer. And that was going to happen on 3 different weekends. I don't know if that's finished or not. And then there's either to be or already has been, I'm not sure, a controlled burn at Griffey. So that's the end of October 13th ERAC.
Thank you very much. The next one I think was maybe one of Andrew's. It was the MPO Citizens Advisory Council. And we move on to Friends of Lake Monroe. We have a report for them.
Yeah, we met on November 15th. And so I guess that was just this last Monday. The 2 years of research into what are the problems of Lake Monroe that they had a grant for are winding down. And this was the second to the last meeting of the steering committee for that particular research. They applied for a 319 research plan to implement various recommendations to try to solve the problems that were found in that first 2 years of research. And this has been supported by IDEM and sent on to the EPA. So everybody has fingers crossed about that. They mentioned Stillwater Marsh, where my wife and I are planning to go tomorrow. I don't know if you know about it, but it's out east of Bloomington on the road to Brown County. And you turn off on Kent Road and go up Kent Road, and then the Stillwater Marsh is up in there. And it's a manufactured marsh. They have pumps there that pump water out of a creek, and they create the marsh over the winter time and then let it dry out in the summertime. And this is for birds. So that'll be interesting for me to go see. I've been there, but not when it was flooded. They have been putting up signs on roads where you're just entering the watershed of Lake Monroe. And there are now 50 plus of those that are out. And I think only Brown County is left to get those signs. So people will know that they're entering the watershed of our water supply. They're planning to have public forums next fall to deal with kind of like what they had at the start of the earlier research, to find out what people think about how we can solve the problems that were found. And they've decided that sediment loads and potassium loads in particular in the creeks need to be dropped by about 90% to reach our goals. And they have an action plan with about a dozen best management practices that they're hoping to get some money for cost shares. Those would include riparian buffers and keeping stock away from streams and that kind of thing. So that was the end of that meeting.
Thank you once again. I believe our last report would be from MC Iris.
Let's see, am I muted or not? No, okay. The MC Iris meeting was, I have very little notes. Again, a lot of the discussion was about the calorie pair issue. And particularly one of the things that I thought is really important was that with the monies that were raised from the plant sale, they were hoping that they would be able to subsidize some people with targeting particularly low-income neighborhoods, which should also make the people on the sustainability commission happy because of the social justice, environmental justice component there. And basically a lot of the Saturday wheat wrangles are now toast for till spring. They were still having the more informal ones with city parks. And we've been discussing, including today while we're at Lower Cascade, discussing times when to do that, weather conditions, and we're going to try to keep going through the winter, if at all possible, whenever we have the opportunity. And there was some significant discussion about the concerns of people on the tree commission about the benefits of things like calorie pair and invasives. I would, putting it mildly, say that the participants in the discussion were not particularly impressed with the argument of the benefits of having invasives such as calorie pear and Asian bush honeysuckle, which threaten our native biodiversity, which is something close to our hearts in EC. So that was basically the news from MC Iris and field operations.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. I left out a couple of things about the tree commission that I'd like to add. One was that if people want to cut down calorie pears in the tree lawns in front of their houses, they should be required to replace, plant new trees. But then there are places where the tree lawns have utilities running under them, waters and gas, and it's not good places to put trees down there anyway. And so the idea was that people should be encouraged to plant replacement trees in their yards instead. And there might have been more, but that's what I'm remembering now.
Damian?
Yeah, I wanted to add, uh, I think the tree commission, my sense of it is that the tree commission doesn't agree with MC Iris in its sort of blanket approach to invasives. One is to remove all of the calorie pairs on city property would be over $1 million project. And we don't have that money. Aaron, we instructed Aaron to put together a 10-year plan, but even at that, she's going to need additional funding because that's $120,000 a year to remove just calorie pairs, you know, a tenth of the calorie pairs, and her budget's only 116 to begin with. So that not only would that not cover all the calorie pairs, it wouldn't cover all the other tree removals that have to be done. But there was some discussion on the tree commission about the competing benefits. So we have an interesting situation here where two environmental goods are kind of competing for the same attention. And I think the tree commission's view is that at least until we can remove them in a sort of systematic, affordable way, that the calorie pairs are still contributing to the Bloomington's canopy, and that is an environmental good. So I just want to say that the tree commission, I think, has a slightly different view on it than MC Iris. One thing that I thought I would mention in passing is that they were talking about this conflict between two environmental goods in another situation, and that is people wanting to cut down trees so that they can put solar panels on their house. And so, you know, we didn't come to any decision about that, but you can see how, you know, we have to weigh the benefits of all these different things. We can't just go out and say, oh, well, you know, everybody should put on solar panels if it means cutting down all their trees. So anyway,
One
just
more
thought
thing.
I'd point out, it's a complex issue.
For sure. Dave?
One more thing from me, and Damia and Linda can correct me on if I'm wrong here, but I understood that over half the trees in Bloomington are calorie pairs at the moment.
No. No, we've got 14,000 trees and there are only 1,274 calorie pairs. So
That was only the number of street trees by that number.
that's right. But
Yes.
I am absolutely certain that 50% of the trees in Bloomington are not calorie pairs. They might be maples, but we can find that out. But I'm pretty sure that's not right.
Okay, and Don?
Yes. What is the gist of our position, in at least the discussion this morning that went on while we were working, was the threat that the calorie pair has to the native forest, and they're spreading fast. So if we don't do something, and we use, there's some good benefit, but in the long term, what do we are, our biodiversity project is probably going to get in the water.
Well, and that's perfectly valid. And, you know, one of the things that we did on the tree commission to help Aaron was to use a sort of triage approach to removing them, since we can't remove them all at once. And one of the important things on the list of criteria is a tree's proximity to wooded areas, you know, so that the trees that are threatening other wooded areas would be on the list to go first, as opposed to trees that are isolated and surrounded by cement.
Yeah, I understand that, and we also want to discuss the issue of the cost involved of doing this, but it is a dilemma, and it's worth discussion at some point.
Yeah,
So,
and we, I know we're going to move on in this meeting to talking about projects for the Ostrom interim. And one of the things that would be useful for the tree commission would be to see if there are any grant money available for the removal of invasives. So whatever MC Iris can do to help us locate funding, because we need a $1.2 million to do this job. So that's a bunch. So if
Sounds
you
like
can-
a deep discussion for next month.
yeah.
And it would be useful if MC Iris would come to a tree commission meeting, so.
Right, wrapping up reports then, we would move to discussions from active working groups. Linda, what do we have for ECPC?
Sorry there.
So this needs to go out in your fridge if you have room for it.
Damien, can you mute, please? Sorry. There was just a lot of background noise. Oh, we have one case coming up that is called University Properties 9. And it is covers several parcels, 307, 319, 401, 405, 407, 409, and 421 East 19th Street. And that's right across from the stadium. And it's just north of the great big new development called Evolve. And right now there are, I think, 8 buildings there. Anyway, there's a number of buildings there, including single-family houses and multifamily houses. And the plan is to demolish all of those and build a 6-story mixed-use structure. The land is about 1.4 acres. And as I said, it's fully developed now. There will be a 2-level parking garage with 140 vehicle parking spaces and 39 bicycle spaces. There'll be 38 more bicycle spaces outside near the entrance. Their impervious surface coverage is proposed to meet code. And the petitioner intends to incorporate light-colored hardscaping, solar power, and a cool roof. So the issues, I think, for the EC so far is to describe, light compared to what, what are the values when they call something light-colored hardscaping. If that just means concrete opposed to asphalt, that's not particularly impressive. How much solar power, they didn't say, and what kind of a cool roof and how cool it's going to be wasn't discussed either. So right now, that's about all I have to say for that case. There'll be one more case, but it won't be going to the Plan Commission. You remember when a few months ago, we talked about, it's listed as Real American Development, but it's the Switchyard Park Apartments down on South Walnut Street. Apartments adjacent to Switchyard Park, and they designed it, and the design was approved, but the back of the property was in a floodplain, and they weren't going to touch the floodplain. They, they were going to just leave it, but they wanted to change the lot lines such that that whole floodplain was in the park instead of on their property. And the Plan and Transportation Department and administration, I believe, thought that that was going to be acceptable because it was property they couldn't develop and weren't planning on it anyway. And so now, rather than coming back and changing the entire plan with a lot line change, they want to just get a variance for impervious surface coverage. Because if they've got, you know, an area this big and part of it is, and they're going to build over here, and this part is floodplain, when they were put together, their impervious surface coverage was fine. But now if they take the floodplain out, then the property they have left there's actually too much impervious surface. So they need to go to the BZA for that. Actually, I beg your pardon, I think they're going to the hearing officer for that. But anyway, that's just kind of an update on that one. It's sort of not a big deal environmentally. I don't know if anybody thinks it is policy-wise, but that land is going to be left fallow adjacent to the creek because it's a floodplain, regardless of who owns it. You know, probably just it's a matter of the developer paying less for the property. But the first one, the university properties, is basically the only thing that'll be going to the Plan Commission. I don't really have anything more to say about it right now. So that's it for me.
Yeah, that sounds to me like a pretty good use for a variance, but I guess we'll see. Sam, you had your hand up first.
Yeah, Linda, I just wanted to recognize the importance of having permeable surfaces installed, especially if it's going to be near a floodplain, like you're saying, because as we know, the flooding issue in Bloomington is pretty serious right now. So I wanted to agree with you on that.
Okay, excellent, thanks.
And also Don.
You're muted, Don.
Maybe the hand's just up from earlier, I'm not sure, but we can circle back to Don if he becomes available here.
I think I'm unmuted.
There you are.
As it stands now, if they continue to have ownership, will they be responsible for managing that part of the floodplain as it goes foul, the keeping out invasives, whatever? Who's going to be responsible for it?
If they kept it, if this variance is denied and they keep it, they will be responsible for that property. If they get the variance and move that little sliver of property on into the park, then the park will assume responsibility.
So I figured. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you, Linda, for the presentation. We're going to move on to outreach. Ben, I believe you were going to recap the panel discussion first.
Yeah, I'm not gonna really recap it, but I'm just gonna let you all know that it's on Facebook right now, and everyone can view it. I think it went really, really well. I think our panelists were incredible, and they really gave some really good background on some of the research that they had been doing. It was really intriguing the whole time, and they really answered some great questions. I think we realized that we can't advertise with Facebook or only with Facebook the whole time. We definitely need to use other outside resources to make sure everyone's aware of another event that we're going to be having. But we know that for the future. And yeah, but it went really well. I really enjoyed hearing all our panelists, and Linda and I went last Friday, and we gave them all a Eco Heroes bag. So the ones that you all got. So that was kind of fun, and we chatted with people And yeah, it was great. I think the next thing on the agenda is, sorry, hold on. The biodiversity group, if I recall correctly. So we're going to be hopefully meeting in the next couple weeks or so. I know this coming week people are going away, so or including me. So I was kind of planning to meet with everyone in the biodiversity working group in about 2 weeks or so after Thanksgiving, and we kind of hit a stall with just a bunch of other stuff that seem to take priority over the plan right now for the habitat connectivity plan. But we're going to talk about that hopefully at the next meeting and really get that going because it's been a long time coming. So I'm still waiting for some edits, but after I get all the edits, I'll share that with everyone in the commission, and we'll kind of go from there. We got some great advice, I think, back in May from HAND and MC Iris and some other great groups that attended a meeting with us, and they gave us some really good ideas. So we're going to definitely try to contact the neighborhood associations and get the plan off the ground one of these days. But we hope for 2 weeks from now is when we're going to really dive into it and really get it going. So yeah, so get excited for that. That's all I have for tonight.
I am excited for that. It does feel like it's been a little while, but I understand how everything else kind of had us crunched for time. And I did also, circling back to the panel discussion, get to watch it on the Facebook page, and I thought it was really good too. Since I missed it day of, it was nice to be able to watch it. But I was really impressed.
I'm allergic to Facebook. Is there some other way I could see it?
I can share it with you on Google, but I know you also don't like Google.
I'm allergic to Google too, so yeah.
If you want to come into City Hall, I can give you a flash drive with it on it. That's another option. You can email me about that if you're interested. But
I do, yeah.
Fortunately, I don't think I can send it any other way because it's such a big file.
Well, I don't see any old business on the agenda, so the new business I know is a hot topic, starting with the resolution from the toxic substances burning. Oh, actually, I see Don and Dave both have their hands up. Don, did you have something you wanted to say here?
Actually, my hand was up related to the last two things that Ben brought up. And that's basically listening to MC Iris, listening to the Sustainability Commission, and our own interests, self-interest, and outreach. We really need to be working together on our outreach on all issues. Better to join than be separate, I guess. Thank you.
All right, and Dave?
I'd like to move that if we do end up sending a resolution to the city council, that we send a simple text version, something like what I wrote, rather than a version with all the whereases and be it resolved and stuff in it. I've been a member of this commission for, I think, 19 years, and I can't remember our using that legalistic stuff in the past, and I don't think we ought to start. So I make that motion. We need a second.
Second.
Is this when we have discussion?
Right.
Yes.
Well, discussion of what form to send, not the exact thing.
Yeah, discussion of the format, not of the.
Okay, I'll wait a moment then.
Ben?
I just had a quick question on why, like, would there be any benefit of using the legal format, and like, would the council appreciate that more? Like, why would that be used?
I don't think so. I think it would make it harder to read is basically it. And so there'd be fewer council members who would be willing to read it and pay attention to what it's saying. That's my view.
No,
I
agree. I agree. That's how I read it as well. I was just wondering why that was written in the format. Like, why would it be written in a legal format in the first?
I don't know.
Sam, go ahead.
Has anyone else here seen sort of documents like that from other commissions or anything and seen how they were written at all?
I've seen some climate related stuff written that way. I believe the mayor's monarch pledge that Mayor Hamilton signed a couple of years ago was written the same way. I don't really have strong feelings on the matter. I just kind of figured that maybe was the way certain fields were trending, and my feelings won't be hurt by either format. But yeah, I don't really know the why. I don't have enough involvement in current like grad school education, I guess, to know why people are using it the way they're using it. But
I might add that Mike agrees with those of us who want the simple text version.
already rallied the troops. Okay, are there any major advocates for the whereas version? Does anyone want to speak for that? Seeing no opposition, do we want to actually have a vote on which letter or which format we would like to use?
Well, the vote is whether we send the simple text version in place of the other version.
That's right. So a yay vote means we send it in the form of a letter.
I suppose we can do a voice vote. So as was mentioned, a yay vote would be for the regular letter format. A nay vote would be for the kind of legalese manner, and abstaining is always allowed, but actually that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to abstain from the vote first, and then I will move to Sam.
I also will vote present. Abstain.
All right, on to Matthias.
I'll vote yes.
Dave.
Yes.
Okay, to Damia.
Yes.
Corey.
I abstain.
Don.
Yes.
I believe that is all the voting members and that it passes with a majority. Anyone's taken better notes, they can check my count there, but that did seem like a successful vote. Is there any further discussion on the incineration of toxic substances that needs to be done, or was this merely a formatting discussion?
I have some more discussion.
Okay.
The city has, as you read, I'm sure the city has hired a couple of different consulting firms or remediation firms for the cleanup. And one of the environmental firms is writing up a report with all the findings. And I would recommend that before we send any kind of letter, any kind of resolution at all, we wait and read the report, because it seems like we're kind of jumping the gun with an opinion before we actually read the results.
Yeah, I agree.
The city is not, believe me, the city will not be doing any burning anywhere in the near future. So it's not as
I'm
if
sure they won't.
it's not as if this is imminent, and it just seems premature to write our opinion like this until we have the results of the.
I agree.
So basically, everyone knows that the city and the EC and everyone informed on the matter is opposed to burning toxic substances on purpose and, endangering communities. We can wait until we hear more, including a report, before we feel the need to put out our own statement.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah,
And I
So-
still think it's a possibility for us to work with other entities. Like there's bound to be somebody else in town who wants to write a similar resolution.
Yeah.
You know, and maybe, you know, as we hear the results, we can work together with somebody, some other entity, instead of having, you know, 10 different letters or proposals or resolutions out running around out there.
So I'm not sure what we do in terms of Robert's rules here. We can approve it, which it appears that none of us is inclined to do. We can reject it, which might send the wrong message, or we can table it. I don't know if we have any other options. But tabling it means that it will eventually have to come back.
Yeah, tabling sounds pretty reasonable to me. I like the patient approach, but while we still have the discussion going, I believe, Dave, you had your hand up first.
yeah, just wanted to remind people, if you're not aware of this, that what happened, the disaster, is really the fault of the state DNR, who came down and inspected that house and told the fire department what they needed to be careful of, and they didn't somehow manage to mention lead. And so it's really their fault that this happened.
Yeah.
Noted. Sam?
I wanted to agree with what both David and Linda said. Starting with David, it is pretty astounding that between like everyone in the city who's part of that, and like you said, IDEM was there too. Like, it's just really interesting that like nobody thought to do a lead test. And I have like a lead abatement test from when I was doing a lot of painting back in the day. And that was just like standard protocol for like even a house that maybe looks like it was built in the 80s. Just do lead test before you even touch it. So, I mean, it's just, that's how it happens. But back to what Linda was saying, I think it's a good opportunity to work with other entities to maybe even push this beyond the city level. Like, I know that Fire Chief Moore was talking about wanting to take the issue to the state level as well. So, you know, it could be an opportunity for the Bloomington City and Commission to kind of raise awareness statewide about lead poisoning and just lead toxicity. I mean, there should definitely be a city and a state law regarding like mandatory lead testing for any structure burns. So.
Yeah.
And it may be that our resolution may be directed to IDEM rather than the city council.
So yeah, we should just think about that too then.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's shocking and unfortunate that it happened. It does seem like it'd be great if it was a catalyst to some larger action being taken.
Yeah.
Don?
And I'll just add really quickly again, sorry. A lead test takes like 30 seconds to do, and the tests are really cheap just to do a quick one. So.
Yeah, go ahead, Don.
I just wanted to insert one of the things that struck me about the whole incident is the big elephant in the room is the fact that in a community like Bloomington, you have so many homes and other structures that predate the banning of lead-based paint. And so basically what went through my mind was the amount of, when you do have a structure fire, there's not going to be the response of costly response like what the city has just done to assess the impact. But it's one of the unfortunate consequences that there's not enough money in the world or in the United States to remove all the lead pipe, all the lead paint that's already in our structures. It's a pretty sobering reality. That's all I had on that.
agree. So regarding the resolution, at this time, do we need a vote to table it?
Yeah, we do. I move that we table it. And it needs a second.
For a second?
Yeah.
All right, so we will do the voice vote. Once again, I'll kind of do roll. I vote yes to tabling. Sam,
Yes.
Bias,
Yes.
Dave,
Yes,
Damia,
Yes,
Corey,
Yes.
and Don.
Yes.
All right, it is unanimous. We will table this resolution and return to it after we've read some reports and heard from some other groups. I believe then the next topic was the Ostrom Fellow or intern and what we could do. I know it's kind of a shame that Scott isn't here since he, when we last met a couple months ago, recommended this. I'm not sure exactly what type of project they'd be looking for, but thought we'd have a discussion about any possible ideas.
should we wait until he can be with us?
Hmm.
I don't know, this, it doesn't seem like something that we can formally decide on today, but we can certainly discuss it and have kind of some potential ideas to get the ball rolling better next time, maybe. Ben?
I had previously sent him maybe a month ago or something, a number of ideas, and also tried to put him in touch with Aaron Hatch. And he kind of said, yeah, that all sounds good, but I haven't really heard back from him since. So I don't know if he already found something to do for some Ostrom Fellows and he doesn't need activities or research to be done anymore, or if he's just kind of tabled that for now. But I think it would be a good idea if we wait and see what he says next meeting, so we don't have to do unneeded work.
Right. Okay, that sounds all right to me. Maybe, I don't know exactly how long you said it's been, but if you think it makes sense, maybe follow up and ask if it's still a thing that anyone is available to do, or if they've already decided on projects, just so we know whether we should commit more time and attention to it. Because if there is still someone available looking to help, it seems like, you know, a great opportunity, something we wouldn't want to pass up. But if their deadline was a while ago and our missing a meeting ended up kind of hurting the momentum, this way we'll know whether we need it on the agenda or not for next month. So. All right, following that, the next order of business is future EC memos to the Plan Commission and how we're going to address that now that Linda's job duties are shifting. I just kind of want to open the floor to discussion because I don't know an easy answer on this one. Dave?
well, the question is, will there be somebody else taking Linda's place that could work with us?
No. Well, yes, sort of.
Not your place as the liaison, but your place with telling us what about plans.
The way I understand it, it will be up to the EC to find that out. So the EC can go to the monthly Plan Commission lunches. All the cases have a current planner assigned to them. You can go to that current planner and ask questions and get the lowdown. But there won't be one individual dedicated to that. So the question is, you know, does the EC want to dedicate one person to do this or divvy it up, which means several people would have to go to the Plan Commission lunches? It also means several people have to learn the nuances of the UDO. So that it's a great big giant question.
When are these monthly lunches? Is it a regularly scheduled thing or?
Yes, and they have a schedule, and the 2022 schedule will come out in December or January, but the next meeting will be at 11:30, December 14th.
So Linda, is that how you, I mean, my understanding is that the ECPC only sees proposals that are asking for waivers, exceptions, right?
No, that's not correct.
Okay,
Basically, the ECPC sees all of the cases that go to the Plan Commission, except some little one like a lot line movement or something.
okay. So even if it meets all the regulations of the UDO and there's no question about whether it's going to be approved or not, I don't recall seeing those before.
Yeah, you see them. I
Okay.
mean, you see them.
Okay.
And on those kind of cases, usually we'll recommend things, that aren't in the UDO, like some additional green building features and things like that. Now, we used to have a lot more issues in the memos that didn't have to do with the UDO, like say it recommended that they use native plants. Well, we recommended that, and every one of our memos, even though it wasn't in regulations. Well, now it's in regulations, so we don't have to put that in the memos anymore.
I see.
But it's just the big oversight will go to the current planners and not me on environmental issues.
What do you mean the big oversight?
Well, I mean, like take Ivy Chase, for instance.
Right.
On that one, I've already spent a lot of time getting LiDAR photos and going out to the site with ECPC, with the developer, finding some couple sinkholes that hadn't been found before.
Right.
Those kinds of things will be left up to the current planners now. And if you want to still stay involved in those, as I hope you do, because I think it's really important, then you'll have to work with one of the current planners.
All right, Sam.
So if I may ask, so what exactly changed in the Planning Commission that sort of caused this new arrangement?
Nothing in the Plan Commission.
Okay.
Is my director thought that my time would be better spent on long-range environmental issues rather than development review and grading permit review.
You go
So,
ahead.
but another, is there like a way then we could maybe establish a more of a formal connection then between us and the Planning Commission or whoever, just so that maybe that process could be easier and more
Planning
formal.
department, not the-
Automated a little bit.
Yeah, than kind of it being like searching in the dark for stuff.
Right, it would be the planning department, not the commission. And development review division specifically. Because that's where you've got like the, when each development comes along, there's like for lack of a better word, a project manager, the one person that carries that case through to the end. And, you know, it'll be easy enough to find out who that person is, but the hard part is who on the EC is going to champion it. You know, is it going to be one individual person that basically does what I have always done? Or are you going to divvy it up? And that's the part that I think is the hardest question.
How
Have
many?
you talked to Mike Litwin at all?
No. I mean, he knows what you guys knew before this meeting.
How many planners are there that would have to be dealt with? How many different people?
Let's see here. How many are there? Eric, Karina are both full-time current planners. Keegan, his time is split between current planning and something else, and so is Jackie's. So it's 2 full-timers and 2 half-timers. So 2 people take the most cases and the other 2 take fewer cases because they have some other responsibilities also.
This is a huge monkey wrench.
I don't have a good answer.
Yeah, this is huge. And I assume that there's no appealing this decision.
Well, it is already done.
Right, but what I'm saying is this makes a huge difference to the Environmental Commission's ability to do an important part of its job. And it seems a little high-handed to just swoop our support person out from under us with no warning, right? There wasn't any warning. I don't know. One of my instincts would be to go talk to the mayor on behalf of the commission and say, this is, you know, this is really not a good thing.
That's a possibility. I don't even know if the mayor knows about it. I
Right.
mean, I assume he does since he's,
But why would he? It's internal to the department, right?
yes, it is internal to the department, and you know, the director you know, has the authority to
Right.
you know, have us spend however much time on different projects that he wants. So, yeah, I mean, I agree. Why would he? So he probably maybe doesn't. I don't know. Don't know that.
Dave?
I like Damia's suggestion. I would like to move that we send her, if she's willing, to go talk to the mayor about this.
I'm willing, although I was going to save this for the end. I've been invited to join the board of directors of the Lotus Festival, which is a pretty big deal and very interesting to me. And so I was planning on stepping down from the commission at the end of December because there's just a limit to what I can do as a person. But I would certainly be willing to talk to the mayor about this and see if he's aware of it. And because this is just basically going to like pull the teeth of the EC. I mean, that's the one area where we really make a difference, I think. Regardless of all of our reports and our resolutions, the one place where we have, I think, made a difference to this community is in our keeping an eye on development projects. And not to say that we're always successful about what we advise, at least there's somebody watching, right? As far as I know, we're the only citizens advisory group that watches.
I think that's a fair statement.
Yeah, so to take that away, they're defanging the Environmental Commission. And given the fact that it's the oldest commission in the city, just, I don't know. I think that's not a good thing to do right now.
So I have a motion on the floor. Any seconds?
I'll second it.
Okay, well, I don't want to go by myself. So I need somebody to go with me. Matt?
Do we have any, do we have any volunteers?
I think Matt's probably the most powerful if he's the acting head, or, you know, someone who's been on the commission the most, who might have a relationship with the mayor.
Actually, Mike Lickman might be a good, he's not here. Can we volunteer him for the job?
Of
I don't know Mike,
course.
but I vote Mike.
Yep, we can certainly ask him. My biggest issue is availability is difficult as someone who has somewhere he has to be from 8 to 5 every day, and
Yeah,
pulling
Yeah.
beyond that, it's a tougher scheduling thing. It's
Yeah.
just not that I'm unwilling to go. It just, you would have a lot more flexibility if you had a different partner in crime on this one.
yeah. And Mike and I are both retired, so I expect we are more flexible. All right, well,
If Mike won't, I will, but I think Mike would be better than me, so.
well, he's been on the ECPC for a million years. Okay,
Do we need a vote for that, or are you and Mike gonna be able to kind of figure out a plan here?
oh, we can figure out a plan.
Well, I very much appreciate your willingness to help us, especially before rolling off. Hopefully, it's something that they weren't aware of. Hopefully, it's kind of an oversight, and we can get something to make it at least a little bit easier on us to.
Yeah. And Linda, I might give you a call sometime tomorrow, because I'm going to need a list of just sort of particulars, you know.
Sure, I'll do what I can.
Yeah, I mean, the list would be a kind of itemized list of the kinds of support that the EC needs to be able to do this job, you know.
Okay,
And maybe also the kinds of comments that we tend to make and the difference that we make.
Yeah.
we
Okay,
got it.
Sounds to me like we have a pretty good plan of action here, and I, appreciate once again your semi-volunteering. You kind of got thrown out there as if you'd be willing to speak on our behalf, but I appreciate that a lot. I guess our next item of business would be future guest columns and also future guest speakers. Linda or Ben, just, what exactly were we looking for with this bullet point? Like a procedure for either of those?
Actually, I thought this was something David asked to discuss.
David Parkhurst.
Yes.
Not that I remember.
It sounds like Andrew.
Yeah, it does.
Well, it could have been. Maybe it was just to make either discuss or start creating a list for 2022. I really don't know.
Andrew says.
Oh, Don, it was Don's idea, I believe.
Do what?
Well,
I'm sorry, I got lost here.
that's okay. I know that I asked at one point about future guest columns just because when we all got busy, they kind of stopped happening. And I remember last calendar year when the pandemic had just started and everyone had more time, that we had a member volunteer to kind of make a list and let people sign up for months. And then I believe she was even submitting them for people. I don't think we need to go that far or anything, but I think it would be really great if, especially if there were timely or relevant ideas from anyone, but even if not, even if it was just some wisdom or some expertise you wanted to share with everyone, if we were able to get some guest columns going again.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Now I know.
So I don't know exactly what we're looking for organizationally speaking. If we want to go so far as to have people sign up for months, or if we just want to generally nudge and say, hey, you know, write something, here's the link, here's how you submit it. What if people feel we want to do moving forwards? Damien?
Do you guys still do the bucket list meeting in January? It strikes me that this ought to be folded into that meeting because the commission ought to figure out what it wants to do next year and tie its speakers and letters to the editor to that.
It is something that has come up in prior bucket list meetings. It's tough for something like this, though, that isn't going to be like our big yearly goal is to have everyone write something. We're going to have different, projects that form a kind of a different shape than that. But it is something that at least the last two bucket list meetings, we've talked about wanting to have this be a larger part of our outreach, whether it's guest columns or if someone wants to write something shorter like letters to the editor, just trying to have something, a voice from the EC appearing in the paper on a monthly basis was something that we've regularly tried to prioritize. But when we get busy, it falls off. So I'm not sure exactly what action is required and how much each individual is willing to write, but
Hey, look, Andrew has just joined us.
Yeah, he snuck in a little bit ago. Andrew, do you want to say anything on this issue, or are you just hiding until announcements?
Well, I'm technically a member of the public now, so I don't think it's really appropriate for me to speak necessarily. I was just going to say that when I put this on the agenda, the idea was to get people thinking of ideas for next year. But if you want to save that for the bucket list meeting, that makes sense as well, what Damien said. So, but yeah, I'm a member of the public, so I won't be making any commissioner announcements tonight. I'm just here to observe.
Fair enough. Don, is your hand still up?
Yeah, I guess one of the things that's rather is reading the paper daily, I'm getting the impression that the only guest columns that seem to routinely get published are from people from Butler or Ball State, rather. I'm getting kind of wondering whether we even have a local paper. But yeah, I think we need to, I think definitely not just us, but the other commissions and people within the city need to express themselves and let people know that we're doing something. I mean, I really got steamed when it seemed like the attacks on the mayor implied that he was, not interested in they wanted him to declare an environmental emergency, and we need to be pushing the stuff that the city is actually doing and getting done. It seems that I'm just getting disgusted with the Herald Times. I don't know whether they would publish anything if we send them one every day.
Well, I mean, historically, we don't have one set, goal with these letters or columns. If you wanted to use one to say the things you appreciate the administration having done, that's a thing we can do. If you want to, use one to teach people about, some of the stuff that you have some expertise in, you can use that for that as well. I think the idea was just to, semi-regularly. Obviously, if we're at our busiest times, it might not be a thing we want to prioritize, but to have regular contributions. And it's something that I can say from experience, when you're a newer commissioner and you don't know all the ways you can contribute to the group yet, and you're maybe not even completely comfortable in all the meetings at this time, writing something is something anyone can do. So I don't know exactly how we want to structure it, what we would want to do, and we can talk about it more at bucket list time if that's what everyone thinks is best. But I do think it would be good exposure, whether it's an opportunity for us to teach the community or to speak on the type of things that we or Bloomington have accomplished, or to implore people to pursue certain actions, whatever we feel like putting out there each month.
Well, example, one of the things that I'm familiar with, of course, has been what the city planning, Parks Department planting trees, because I've participated in those events. And if you add up what the tree commission's other groups within the city planting, we're doing quite a bit of work. I mean, tomorrow we're going to be putting out more seeds into Southeast Park. We collected some seeds today from Lower Cascades for future planting. These are all positive things that are being done by the city.
Yep, I agree, but as it pertains to, and actually I've been focusing on the writing, the guest speakers there on the agenda. Is this something that we also want to try to have a better maybe structure in place for guest speakers at meetings, so that we can know, in advance, or we can have a time slot in any given meeting. I don't know exactly how that's been done in the past. I haven't been a part of it, but that's something that we can discuss as well.
Okay.
But if there's, not much to say on this, issue of the new business, we can say that we can talk about it again come bucket list time. Maybe not the same meeting, because those are always very full as is, but we can revisit this in a month or two when we see fit. Anything else anyone wants to say on that one first, or is that acceptable?
So,
not seeing any opposition to that, I guess we'll move on at this time to commissioner announcements. I have no announcements myself, so I'll just kind of roll through the order once again. Sam?
I just want to say, and I've told Linda about this too. It's also a class project I'm working on in my GIS class. It has to do with the flooding in Bloomington, but I'm doing a GIS analysis of the runoff flash flooding issue in downtown Bloomington, and I'm correlating the concentration of impervious surfaces downtown with the elevation in that area, with a few other factors. But I'll have a report for everybody here at the end of this year, I think I might have it ready next month actually, and I'd be happy to share that with everybody when I have
That's
that
great.
done. So
That's
hopefully,
super.
we'll be able to identify maybe just some specific parking areas in town that could maybe eventually be retrofitted to be more like pervious surfaces, and we could maybe see some better drainage in there, among other things too. So
That sounds great. Very helpful.
Sounds really cool. Looking forward to seeing it. Let's see. Matthias, do you have any announcements? Good. Dave?
Yeah, since this was our 50th anniversary and it was also the 50th anniversary of Earth Day, I like to tell a story about the first Earth Day that a few of you who have been around longer may have heard this, but anyway, it's a favorite story. So it was, 1970, actually, was the first Earth Day. And I was in my last year of graduate work at the University of Wisconsin. And a friend of mine, Dick Tracy, who was, I was a botanist, he was a zoologist, but the two of us were on in the local group of zero population growth. And so there were booths all up and down State Street in Madison, Wisconsin. And Dick and I wrote a little basic program, that would ask people how many kids each family should have, and then it would show how the population would grow for most of the numbers that people would put in. And this was, of course, before the days of portable computers. So we needed to hook we had a teletype machine that would spew out the answers, and we needed to hook a computer to the mainframe on campus, and we had to do that by telephone. So I called up the local AT&T people to ask whether we could use one of the telephone booths along State Street to do this, and if we could keep it going for more than an hour. And the guy who talked to me, who answered, said, "Oh, I don't think we can do that." And then there was a pause, and he said, "But who would know?" That's the story.
Thank you for sharing that, Dave. Didemia, do you have any announcements?
Just that I'll be joining the Lotus Board in January, and I'll be leaving the EC at the end of the December meeting. And I just wanted to say, I think you guys are doing a great job, and that's basically it.
Congratulations on your new job and best wishes.
Thanks.
Thank you. Corey, do you have any announcements?
Yeah. So I think I've got two things to kind of just put on the radar. One, I think I was just in a meeting before this for work with the Sunrise, or the representative from the Sunrise Movement here in Bloomington, and they're doing a really interesting campaign trying to get IU to divest from fueling or funding fossil fuel interests, and they're picking up a lot of traction. They've made the news a lot, and so I think this is something really cool that, if anyone knows, anyone in the area who can support, maybe connect them with some people in the IU Foundation, it'd be really helpful. And yeah, Quentin Depperts, who specifically talked to Sierra Club and a few other coalition partners tonight, but I do think it's great to see such positive movement happening locally and picking up such traction. And The second thing I just wanted to put on the radar, and Linda, sorry, I saw that I actually did not get back to this email. I typed it out, but didn't send it to my drafts. The Confront the Climate Crisis kids, who are a statewide organization trying to get Indiana to declare a climate crisis resolution, and also actually have some legislation that's being sponsored by a bipartisan group of legislators in the Indiana Senate, Indiana House, would like to speak to us next week about, potentially getting our support as a commission, and, recommending Bloomington as a whole does too. So that's really cool. Wanted to put that on everyone's radar if they wanted to look into it. It's Confront the Climate Crisis. And yeah, they're a really cool group of high school students getting some great stuff done around the state of Indiana. I'm a lobbyist in my day job, and they are much better at me at working across the aisle. So it's very cool stuff.
Awesome, thank you. Don?
Yeah, my wife probably get a little bit annoyed with me for doing this, but she's formerly the assistant associate, whatever, VP from human resources at the IU Foundation. But her long-term colleague and chum is Philippa Guthrie, who I believe is going back to being or has gone back, left the city and has gone back to the foundation as a interim, her old position as their chief attorney. But Philippa is one of the most strongly opinionated environmentalists that I know in the community. And if somebody wants to talk to somebody in the foundation, I would suggest Philippa.
Yeah, I wrote down the name. If you had any contact info, I'd love to email you later and I'll pass it on to them. They're a good bunch of people.
And she's an EC alum also.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Right. Ben, do you have any announcements? None from Ben. Linda?
Nope, I think I already exhausted all my news when we talked about the memos.
Right. All announced out at this point. All right, in that case, I would support a motion for adjournment.
Second.
And we have a second. So at 7:37 p.m., adjourning the meeting. Thank you everyone for being here and participating today.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great Thanksgiving.
Recording stopped.
Same to all of you.